This morning I got on YouTube and I stumbled upon a video series called I Am an Ex Mormon, and it is a response, if you will, to the advertisements that the LDS Church has been putting out called I'm a Mormon. And I watched one and I watched another and I couldn't stop watching them, and I think I've watched probably 15 to 20 of them today. And they are video accounts of people's personal testimonials about leaving the LDS Church and how much clarity and peace and love and freedom it has brought them in their lives. All of these people have various reasons that sparked them leaving, but all of them went online and did a lot of research about the true history of the Mormon Church and practices that went on in the beginning and still go on today. And in time, they all came to know for themselves that the church is not what they lead the population to believe. So I was very inspired by this, and many of them brought me to tears. I was inspired to post a video of my own. Growing up in the Mormon Church, the young children are always taught to, from about the time that they can speak, get up in front of the congregation and share with everyone in front of them what they believe. And the very young children always have their parents whisper in their ear what they're supposed to say. And one of the first things they ever teach you to say, I like to bear my testimony. I know this church is true. I guarantee you go into any Mormon building in the entire country, and little kids will get up there and say, I know this church is true. And they will have parents whispering in their ear. And this is always something that has struck me as strange, and especially the more I learned about the psychological structure of the human mind, and just, look at any brainwashing camp. If you repeat a statement enough times, you will believe it to be true, no matter what it is. I started noticing that I was attracted to men when I was about 10 or 11, and for a couple years, it didn't really strike me as that devastating. It was strange, of course, unexpected, but it wasn't terrible until about the time that I became 12 and 13, what's known as a deacon in the LDS Church. And it was about this time that I started hating my life, because of course the Mormon Church teaches, well, they've actually updated their teachings recently, but right now it is okay to be gay, but it is not okay to ever act on these gay tendencies. So I remember admitting to one of the members of the bishopric, and the day that I admitted this, I remember sitting in front of him filled with shame and just absolute fear, and as the words came out my lips, I broke down crying in front of him. And that was when it began. That was when I started having to go see the bishop, and once a month he would ask me about my tendencies and how they were unfolding. And I would always dread the meetings. For a week before, I would have to tell him, no, nothing had changed. No, I was still the same way. And I remember going out into the woods right over here, actually, and just praying, just reaching my hands to the sky and asking God, why have you done this to me? What sort of twisted test is this? Why is this happening? Please make this go away. Please make this stop. And eventually I had lost all hope, and I began screaming and hating that which I called God for the severe unfairness of the situation. About this time, when I was 16 or 17, I started losing all desire to live whatsoever. It got to the point where I wanted to die than to bear being gay in the church anymore. The closest I ever came to killing myself was the one time that I intentionally was going to follow through with it. And I sat down and I wrote a letter to my brothers, and I hadn't made it past Dear Weston and Kendall, and I decided I couldn't do it because I couldn't do that to them. Shortly after that, I realized that I had a choice. I could continue feeling this way, or I could decide to accept myself for who I was and start the very beginning of what it meant to love myself. So I remember one day, this is shortly after I had met my first boyfriend Michael, I decided to hell with it, and I uploaded my MySpace picture, Michael and myself kissing, and it was kind of an outrage, and it was even more dramatic than I thought it would be. And many friends who had been my very close friends for years were instantly estranged, and it caused quite a lot of drama. Not so much drama to my face, but drama that I knew was going on behind my back. And some of my friends emailing other friends who were close to me and saying, like, how could you ever do this to Chris? You made him gay. This is all your fault. And a lot of animosity, and members of the church who had been like parents to me suddenly giving me the complete cold shoulder. And it was very hard to see adults in the church that had been closer to me than my actual parents at the time show no signs of love anymore. This was actually a blessing in itself because it made it easier to leave the church. Shortly after, I left for school in Los Angeles to try to, leave all of this behind. As I learned, you can't really leave the past behind. It always catches up with you. There's no such thing as burying it. It will come out eventually. So I was very, very happy for, a couple semesters, and then it started catching up with me, and I developed the most severe form of depression and anxiety that I've ever experienced in my life, and it got worse and worse, and from the moment I would wake up in the morning to the time I would go to bed, I would just be filled with this sick nausea, this dread. I wanted it to go away, and I didn't know what was causing it. My agony had eventually led me to a hypnotherapist that sparked the beginning of the rest of my life, and what my life is now, and what my life will continue to unfold and become. And it was in his office that I learned that we are not separate from God. We are not separate from each other. We have the power to create our lives, whatever we want them to become. And we are all connected in a beautiful tapestry that I now loosely refer to as God. I no longer from that point forth believe that God was an egotistical white man with a beard who lived in the sky and showed us love by telling us exactly what to do and punishing us if we did not do that. Very shortly after learning these things and learning to reprogram my mind and undo some of the damage that had been done by the church, I looked in the mirror and I told myself, I love myself, I approve of myself, I am special just the way I am. Within just 1 month, all the anxiety and the depression began to quickly fade away. About 6 months after this event, I had been steadily feeling better, but there was still occasionally this sense of depression and sadness and just a hollowness inside me. And I expressed this to an old woman one day who I met in Whittier, and she told me a pearl of great price, if you will. She asked me if I meditated, and I said, occasionally, I don't really know, maybe. And she said, go into a quiet space, daily, and once you've calmed down, ask yourself, who am I? And she said, you'll get many answers, you will get, things pop into your head, oh, I'm Christopher, I'm a student, I'm the son of Brian, I'm an actor, and she says, these are not who you truly are. Just let these drift aside and ask again, who am I? And she says, the answer will come, and when it does, you will never be depressed again. And I took these words to heart, and every day I would do this, and it was about 6 months before my answer came. I have never shared my answer with the public before. I've told a few people, but the time has come to just out with it, because I feel like if I could get up in front of the congregation of the Mormon Church for so many years and say what I believed is true, even though I really didn't, why can I not get in front of all of my friends and family and tell you what I actually believe? who I actually am. So this night in my dorm room in Whittier, I asked the question and I said, who am I? And it was like a lightning bolt struck me from the top of my head all the way to the base of my spine and back up again. And within just a matter of seconds, I saw all these images flash through my mind so quickly, and I saw an explosion that I can only describe as the Big Bang, and I saw planets forming and cooling, and stars and rainbows and rain falling and grass and seeds and birds and raccoons and everything, and all the faces of all the people and cities, and it was all accompanied by the most overwhelming sense of love I have ever imagined, and I've never felt like this anything else in my entire life than this one isolated event. But I know that what I was feeling was love, and it brought me to my knees, and I started pouring out tears. It was from this moment on that I've known why I'm here, and I think it's why we're all here. And it is to, one, remember this truth about ourselves, that we are God, that we are creation, that we are everything, that we are united, that we are love, and that we are peace, and to remind each other that that's who we are. There are many things about the Mormon Church that I'm not necessarily going to talk about right now, because that's not why I'm making this video. But they are out there, and I urge anyone who's curious to do your own research. And my job is not also to tell anybody that you have to leave the Mormon Church, because by all means, if you're happy and that's working for you, then wonderful. My video is posted for people who aren't happy and feel like there is more, who feel like maybe there's a little more of the picture. I recently received my letter in the mail confirming my excommunication. I walked into the office. I did this voluntarily because I felt it was part of my healing process to remove my name from the record of something that I so deeply to be a lie, and with all due respect, a huge burden on our entire society. I walked into this building quite shaking, quite afraid that, one, I didn't know what I was going to say, and two, if I would be denied and be stuck with this, my name in the records, and it would cause me such discomfort. I told the bishopric a lot of what I'm telling on this video. Long story short, they agreed to excommunicate me. And once I had gotten that approval, my heart opened in a way that I hadn't felt in so long. And I realized that I was finally going to be able to forgive the church. And I left that building that night with more love and compassion for all the members of the church than I had ever felt before. For years I have been so angry and so judgmental and so spiteful. And that is another reason I'm making this video, is to personally apologize to anyone who is LDS that I have been sarcastic towards, or anything less than compassionate. And I wanted to apologize and say that I love you, and I'm sorry. And my anger came from a place of knowing how much pain it had caused me, and how much turmoil that I know religion causes in our world, and how much joy and peace and creation and bliss our planet could find if everyone were to truly wake up and remember who they are. I'd like to take this moment to bear with you my testimony. I know in my heart that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is not true, that it is used as a tool of control, and that we are so much more, and we have so much potential, and the spectrum of life was meant to be so vast and so free and so expressive. And I know that we are one, and that we are connected, and I know that one day this world is going to change, and I personally believe that by the end of my lifetime I will see a heaven of sorts on this earth. And I believe that that will come when we all release our fear of who we have been told is authority, and we realize that we don't only have a personal connection with God, but that we are that connection. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. To all members of the church, just one last message for you. I care about you, and I want to one last time apologize for anything I've said that was hurtful over the last few years, and I've decided to leave all that behind and come from a place of complete compassion. I know where you are. I've been there. I understand it completely. And if you desire to learn more, I mean, the internet is huge, and there's a lot of truth out there about the history of the Mormon Church, and a lot of things that you might find rather startling and enlightening. I leave this all with you in the name of love, and thank you for listening. My name is Christopher. I am a bisexual, I'm a vegan, I'm a musician, and I'm an ex-Mormon.